Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Padam Kumar. I'm consultant dermatologist practicing at Chennai, and I welcome you all to the world's first Derma Rodina. It is unique and one of its kind, uh, wherein we will be discussing science while we stroll through the city. And indeed, it's a beautiful day today out here, and we will be meeting Dr. J.K. Thomas sir as well as Dr. Dinesh Kumar sir, who are doyens in the field of dermatology. There's a filaggrin gene mutation. So this filaggrin gene usually encodes a protein called as filaggrin, which is an intracellular cement substance. It acts as an anchoring between the cells, keratinocytes.
So from there on, I think we must go on to the possibility of how we are looking at the newer frontiers in the management of atopic dermatitis.
Yes,
One or
definitely.
two molecules have definitely come in the last 5 to 6 years. And let's dilate on that. The first is that probably we will think of
Tofacitinib.
tofacitinib, the JAK-STAT inhibitor, so-called, but tofacitinib is only available as an oral
medication.
and we are not able to get it as a topical agent yet. Shortly, probably we might get it. But the point there is, the fact is that tofacitinib orally seems to be more helpful for conditions other than atopic dermatitis. I don't know what the experience is.
I concur with you, sir.
So for alopecia areata and vitiligo, this will be more helpful.
Yes,
Of course, they're all T-cell mediated disorders, but still, we find that more useful. So we are on the lookout for something else, And while looking for, or rather searching for a newer molecule, we come across what is known as the PDE4 inhibitors, the phosphodiesterase 4 inhibitors. Could you please tell us more about that?
So as we know that it is T helper 2 mediated inflammation, atopic dermatitis. So there is increase in phosphodiesterase levels intracellularly, which enhances the cyclic AMP, degrades the cyclic AMP, which results in activation of a release of interleukin 4 and 13, which results in inflammation.
Just to tell, in short, probiotics are helpful in the management or even the prevention of atopic dermatitis. So I think that's good amount of discussion on the pathogenesis. Now it becomes our next duty from pathogenesis, depending on the pathogenesis, how are we going to treat atopic dermatitis? Maybe we'll have to classify them into non-pharmacological and pharmacological. Could we start somewhere?
Yes, sir. Non-pharmacological intervention has its role and place, and it's as important as pharmacological intervention, I would say, sir. So, non-pharmacological intervention, we are looking at small things like keeping the room free of dust, pollen, animal dander, and not exposing the child to too much of dust fumes also. So, vacuuming the house properly, the curtains, the carpets, and also trying to avoid teddy bears, in the room. And as we discussed earlier on food, we would like to avoid certain food stuff and try to find out what the child is allergic to. We also would like to see to that the child is kept as what do you say, not exposed much to mosquito bites, because that is also a trigger which kind of can induce an insect bite hypersensitivity reaction leading on to atopy. And generally, this is, as we have seen, it is more pronounced in atopic kids. So this is something we would like to do.
We should try to avoid
Yes,
washing the clothes, inner garments particularly. One has to be extremely careful. And I would strongly recommend that they do not use these antiseptic lotions for washing of the clothes.
And even the fabric conditioners.
Fabric conditioners too. A
Yes,
big
sir.
note to them.
Yes, sir.
I would like to add one more thing. So many a times happens that couple of parents come and ask, I want to send my child for swimming classes. So, do you suggest them to stay in water for prolonged periods?
Yes, now that is one thing. In the swimming classes and even swimming as a sport for these children, two things have to do. Water, staying in water is a good portion for hydration. But then what happens is the bleaching powder that is added to the water can sometimes be an irritant. And apart from being an irritant, it has got a two-way effect. We talk about bleach baths for children. So we cannot completely abandon bleaching substances which is present in the water. On the other hand, maybe we have to take it case by case and decide how to
Okay, sir.
continue and how to advise. So, coming to the non pharmacological aspects of treatment, we know that topical corticosteroids. Could you dilate on that further?
Topical corticosteroids for years together have been the primary choice of in management of atopic dermatitis, whether it is a mild case or a moderate case or a severe case. What happens is, as you wean off topical corticosteroid, the flare starts up. So that is the way role of topical calcineurin inhibitors comes in. So in order to prevent flares, we start down with either tacrolimus or a pimecrolimus, depending on the area of involvement, and that really helps in the long term.
So, just to make a long story short, in severe form, we use a more potent steroid, and then as the patient improves, bring down the potency of steroid, make it low potency steroid. But don't stop the steroid abruptly. While the patient is on topical steroid, start on what we said, topical calcineurin, either tacrolimus or pimecrolimus. You keep them both together for a while, and then remove the topical steroid. Continue only on tacrolimus or pimecrolimus, which even after the lesions have subsided, might have to continue it. The reason is very simple, which is always known as proactive treatment. Just being reactive is not sufficient atopic dermatitis. As whenever the eczema comes, you start using it. But here is the situation where you have to be proactive, and even when the eczema has subsided, you have to continue to use the agents like tacrolimus and pimecrolimus. And another thing which is very important is, finally, at the end of the day, it's moisturizer. What we spoke about, whether it's an occlusive or a humectant or an emollient, whatever it is. Let us have a deeper look at topical steroids, because we cannot be giving very high potent topical steroids for too long a time. We'll have to keep on tapering down the potency of steroid. Now, what is the challenge that you feel while using a topical steroid in atopic dermatitis, Dinesh?
So the biggest challenge is the long-term usage, and so what we need to know about topical steroids is we need to use the right potency of the steroid for the right age group and the right area of the skin. It could be the vehicle which we are choosing, like the scalp, on the face, and the other body parts are the flexures. Like for example, around the eyes, you would really want to use a very mild topical potent topical steroid, and for the shortest possible duration.
You should be using it only for a certain period of duration for certain restricted areas, and they need to be on proper follow.
So, and one more challenge is the microbiome is already altered, and with topical corticosteroid, you're creating more immune suppression.
Yes, that's a big challenge. And I would add one more. Just like how you say sometimes the parents use it all over the body, there are parents who carry with them a corticosteroid phobia.
Exactly,
Now,
sir.
they are the most difficult to handle. When they are steroid phobic, it's very difficult. The moment you put your pen down to the, is it a steroid? Say yes. No, we don't want steroid. Then you have to help your child yourself. So that is one thing which we have to be very careful about and handle.
Yes.
It's a very sensitive issue
Yes, sir.
from the parents' point of view and from our point of view. Yes, you are about to say
Yes,
something.
sir. I would like to interrupt, sir. Sorry. So in such cases, what I say to my patients is like a steroid is like a two-edged sword. You use it in right way, you get maximum benefits out of it. You use it in a wrong way, you cut off your neck. So just follow the instructions, you should be absolutely fine, and I'm there to help you out. And with that, they tend to sometimes take it up. And another reason, like when people come with that, we always think to look for something new and better alternative. So that is where we may be taking forward and looking for.
Okay, having spoken about topical steroids, what about oral steroids?
So I do use oral steroids in my practice for acute flares when I have to tide over a crisis. I do use, and for a long term, if I'm looking at a long term immunosuppression, cyclosporin would be my choice.
Yes, I also would do that. Give them steroids, and if I see them responding to steroids, continue for a short period and taper it down. If they don't respond to steroid, the next choice will have to be cyclosporin. Or if they cannot afford cyclosporin, the poor man's cyclosporin is methotrexate, where we could advise our patients to take methotrexate. And again, difficult because once a week dosage and all that is there. And methotrexate definitely takes at least 4 to 6 weeks before it shows its good effects. Whereas cyclosporin within 4 to 5 days you can see the difference. So one has to be careful again in that. The tricky situation, sensitive situation, but work according to the convenience of the patient as well as to we physicians. We'll have to decide on that. Oral calcium inhibitors like cyclosporin, they prevent the influx of calcium ions into the cell. Now, when they prevent the influx of calcium ions, mast cells are not released, and therefore there is no histamine release. That's how they act. It doesn't matter how they act. It doesn't really matter here. Now, the importance of tacrolimus or pimecrolimus. Tacrolimus available as ointment, pimecrolimus available as cream. And tacrolimus is known to be marginally better than pimecrolimus, and 0.1% of tacrolimus is better than 0.03% of tacrolimus. And the best thing about it is when we cut off steroids, this is the maintenance, and we have to continue at least for 1 year. The need being what we call as proactive treatment. That is continuing treatment even when there are no attacks. Being reactive is only giving a steroid when the patient has a problem. But proactive treatment is when the problem is not there at all. So continue on tacrolimus. But all the time, what is important is making use of a moisturizer. Whether it is mild, moderate, or severe, a moisturizer has to be used, an emollient, either prescription emollient device or whatever it might be. Now let's go to the newer agents that are available. What is it that the newer agents have come in the last maybe 5 years or so? We started seeing newer agents. What are those? Dinesh, can
So
you
the
contribute
Janus
to that?
kinase inhibitors have been introduced.
Yes.
So they have been used in atopic dermatitis. So that is something we need to have a look into and discuss about. I feel so.
Now, the JAK-STAT inhibitors are probably what we talk of is tofacitinib, baricitinib, upadacitinib, all those are things. But what is available for us is only tofacitinib, and it's only available as 5 milligram tablets. 5 milligram tablet oral. Of course, one has to be careful in using this. And before even tofacitinib and baricitinib, there's another so-called monoclonal antibody, dupilumab, which is found to be useful in the treatment of atopic dermatitis. Very expensive, 600 milligrams given in a gap of 2 weeks. No, pretty expensive. Of course, depends on the body weight. Dupilumab is one thing which one has to think about. Then, apart from the Janus kinase inhibitors, what else would you contribute as the newer molecules?
Phosphodiesterase 4 inhibitor.
PDE4, phosphodiesterase 4 inhibitor. We've already experienced one molecule in the form of a apremilast, which is found to be useful for psoriasis. Start with 10 milligrams, 20 milligrams, go to 30 milligrams. But we don't have it as topical, it's only available as oral. The second thing that is useful, the PDE4 inhibitor, would be
Crisaborole.
crisaborole. Could you dilate a little bit on the action and the function of mechanism of action of crisaborole, please?
So crisaborole binds to the central core portion of the phosphodiesterase 4 in a reversible manner. So once it binds to the phosphodiesterase 4, the availability of phosphodiesterase 4 is reduced intracellularly. So since there is no availability of phosphodiesterase 4, the cyclic AMP levels tends to increase, which suppresses the production of interleukin 4 and interleukin 13.
The cyclic AMP decrease will also have an effect on the interleukin 13 and interleukin 4, thereby decreasing the violence of the atopic dermatitis and even maybe to some extent giving us a cure too. Now, the availability of crisaborole. The availability of crisaborole is available as 2% ointment. 2% ointment. Because the global market is having crisaborole. Very, very expensive. Very, very expensive molecule. 2% ointment itself. Now, we have to understand that shortly we will be getting crisaborole 2% ointment into our country in India. And I'm sure it's really going to add to the armamentarium. But of course, as I told you earlier, we have got expensive molecules like dupilumab already. Even tofacitinib is pretty expensive. So we're looking forward at something which will be more economical, more efficacious, and really patient-friendly ointment. The side effects have already been discussed because what we have in India, information on crisaborole, is only reflected information. What has been taken from world literature, whether it's Europe or from the Americas, we have good amount of studies. Particularly, we have Amipala from the US, we have Eichenfield, who have all used this molecule well. And you look at the protocol that they have produced, they say number one molecule is crisaborole. Then number two is tacrolimus, pimecrolimus. That's the way they classify it. I surely hope that even in India we are able to look at it that way.
So one thing I wanted to add is crisaborole, as Padam had elaborated the mechanism of action. We need to understand it is specific targeted action against the anti-inflammatory system, rather than it's totally different from what we experience with topical corticosteroids, where diffuse immune suppression. So that way, because of the targeting of the pro-inflammatory cytokines, we are looking at much better efficacy. And also, the molecular size of crisaborole is 251 Daltons. So in that case, the penetration is much better, so it's more useful and more available there. And most importantly, I believe crisaborole gives much better relief of the itching and the pain what we were talking about, and it can be used in almost the sensitive areas where the other topical medications are not.
Very true. With regard to the pain and the itching, crisaborole we expect to give very, very good results. But please let us not forget, and whoever is listening to us, nothing to match the moisturizers as yet. Nothing to match the moisturizers. We'll have to wait to see. Once the molecule is available, then definitely we'll start getting. Definitely, I think already Indian studies are on. And we'll have to wait to see what the reports are.
The safety profile of crisaborole is also very good, sir. So it has been approved for 3 months and above age group. So that reflects the safety of it. So the side effect profile is not much. So maybe it can replace in future.
Quite right.
At least
Initially,
in the mild to moderate atopic dermatitis, we could look
Initially, it was used only for 12 years and above. Then they made it 6 months and above. Now it is being used for 3 months and above. So again, the big advantage is there, where a wider range of patients can use topical 2% crisaborole ointment.
Yes, sir. So it was a very beneficial talk with you, and I learned a lot, and I'm sure Padam also would have learned a lot. And it was a good learning from you. So with your experience, one side we are looking at studying literature and gaining knowledge, but the other side, the most important thing is learning from the experience of our seniors.
Yeah,
so which we should imbibe a lot. The way we treat the patient rather than treat the disease. We need to treat the person than the disease. So
even to me, it has been a learning experience. Biomarkers for diagnosis as well as for prognosis.
yes, and the clinical diagnosis is the best lab in history.
Of course, that is the best. As we said about treatment, also moisturizer is the best. So clinical diagnosis, particularly the physician's global assessment, is the best.
Yes, sir. Truly said, sir.